Chaque semaine, la rédaction d'Afro-Web TV vous propose un condensé de l'actualité des 7 derniers jours. Suivez sur Afro-Web TV l'actualité politique, économique et sociale, bref, dans toute son entièreté sur www.afrowebtv.com. Veuillez vous abonner à notre chaîne Afro-Web TV sur YouTube et Facebook pour ne rien rater sur l'essentiel de l'actualité de la semaine. Afro-Web TV au service de la communauté africaine à la diaspora. Afro-Web TV, c'est l'Afrique qui gagne.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, based on where you are actually hearing us from. This is AfroWeb TV, and this show is called Let's Talk with Horeb Anthony. And as usual, this is a platform for us to give you the right to express yourself and say, what you think about some basic topics. And today, we kind of trying to move a little bit out of politics and talk about society. Yes, because this is part of things we discuss, and we are going to look at what it is like to advocate for the girl child's education in Africa and probably all over the world. And we are going to somehow streamline the discussion a little bit to Nigeria. And this morning on the show, we have a gender advocate that has been, from all perspectives, she's making efforts to make sure that the girls in Africa and also in Nigeria are structured in a way that they actually have education just like the way boys do. But we want to look at this morning. What are the challenges? What it is like? What does she mean? Like when she advocates? How easy it is? How difficult it is? Those are the things we want to look at this morning on this show. And if you want to take part in the show, you can actually call us on the number you have on the screen, +1 319 462 89. You have 79. Also, you can go to Facebook or YouTube, AfroWeb TV, or www.afrowebtv.com. You can then reach us and then send messages. Of course, you can call and participate in the show live and direct. Now, on the show this morning is Roselyn Adewuyi. Roselyn is an advocate, the gender advocate. Roselyn, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing great, and you?
I'm great too. I just want to say we're sorry for making you come up on the show early this morning. I know it has not been easy with the busy schedules, but at least you made sure you made it this morning.
It's fine, thank you.
All right. Okay, let's start our discussions from talking about the girl child education. Like, what does it mean actually when we talk about girl child education? What is it all about?
Well, just like the name implies, basically the education of young girls in our society, the act of trying to create awareness around the fact that girls should be educated in our society. We know that because of the patriarchal society we live in, there are various beliefs surrounding the education of the girl child over the years. However, it's actually like getting better right now. But then it is actually believed that, the whole common saying like, okay, the place of a girl, the place of a woman is in the kitchen or is behind the stove or something like that. So those are the common conceptions people have. But then there's been actually like a lot of awareness, sensitization, and over the years about the importance of girl child education. And this has actually been a theme: girl child education, educate girls in our society, because it actually helps the society itself. So there have been a lot of organizations, individuals, even media organizations trying to talk about the girl child education. In some places, things are actually getting better. The efforts of people, the efforts of organizations, the efforts of stakeholders have actually impacted this success in this area. However, in some areas, in some societies, we can still see that girl child education is still really very, very not it. And I have a personal experience about that. So I will just share this a bit. In my dad's village in Benin Republic, when I was young, I used to celebrate Christmas and New Year over there. Now going back there, all the young girls that we actually like grew up together, that they were my friends, all of them stopped at secondary school level. They didn't even really pass their WASC exam, which is called back. It's actually very easy. So now when I go there, most of them like now they have like maybe 2 kids, 3 kids, and everything. So even when they see me as, oh, why is she reading all the books in the world? Why is she not married yet? And things like that. Because that is really their mentality. That's a mindset that okay, as a girl, you don't really have to go far. Just perhaps just your primary school, just study at the level of primary school, secondary school, and that is it for you. And sometimes it actually makes me how will I say this? It saddens me, so to say. It saddens me because when I go there and I see the situation of things, I am really, really not happy. And even some of my family members, some of my relatives, they are not even spared in this kind of mindset, whereby they just believe that okay, as a girl, you should just really be limited. Once you're done, they might just learn a trade or something. I'm not against learning a trade for young girls. In fact, I believe that a lot of things you can actually do a lot of things like side by side education and maybe learning of trade or something. But however, over there, they just see that as okay, once at a certain stage, just drop education and, continue with what's it called now with learning a trade. Another thing I've actually observed is that maybe because of there's some should I say systemic issues around this as well, whereby young girls sometimes they do not do well in school because a lot of them when they go back home they're actually pressured, or maybe perhaps they have a lot of responsibilities in the family towards their younger ones, towards their household, in terms of domestic chores, in terms of a lot of things they have to do. So as a result, for some of them, when they are trying to do all those things, some of them they do not really have time for their books. And I've seen a lot of examples like this, whereby they get back home around maybe 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. and they have to cook, they have to do some things, and some of them they do not really know how to manage their time. Before you know it, maybe they are done around 10, they're tired from money and everything, whereby maybe perhaps the boy child, maybe the kind of like a boy child like that is like a mate of the same girl in the same school. Maybe perhaps we just get home and just relax, or maybe just do something that might not really be so time consuming. But she as a girl has to see to a lot of things in the family, and some people may not really have the mental ability to really handle a lot of things. And you see that most of the girls, from my observation, they also do not do well in school too. And sometimes, really, when they do not do well in school, I believe that there should be a kind of support system whereby maybe teachers, parents, and even stakeholders should try to find out what could be easy or something like that. But most times, at the end of the day, I actually discovered that most times, once they do not do well in school, that's the end of their education. There's no support system. There's really no follow up on okay, what could be wrong and how these young girls could be helped so that they would actually continue their education.
Okay, I think that's really really deep. But let's take things step by step, so that we
Mhm.
can look at them each. In Africa, basically there is a saying that if we educate a boy, we educate one person, but if we educate a girl, we educate a family and a nation. How do you explain that?
Okay, basically, it's just trying to say that, basically, most times in our society, although sometimes I do have some reservations about some things, but then this is like the reality of things most times, whereby most people, especially like women in our world today, they tend to have a lot of influence in the lives of their kids, in the lives of their children, and things like that. So imagine someone who is not educated, someone who is not an elite, someone who is an illiterate, a woman who is an illiterate. Most times the kind of mentality she has, the kind of exposure she has also transfers to how she actually parents are. children. So she might have like this limited mindset in terms of even like making some informed decisions about her life, about the lives of her children, and things like that. She only sees just within the scope of, where she knows, because she's not educated, which is different from a woman who is educated. My mom is educated, and I know how she would actually like empower me in certain things, how she would encourage me in, certain things in terms of even my academics, education, and all that. A lot of people say, okay, they can see that my parents are really very educated. And that was still a comment someone made yesterday. Like, oh, your parents seem to be very educated because of how I do certain things. So sometimes it's just very, very like, it's a thing whereby you see that a lot of people, when they have educated parents, you can see it in the lives of the children. Maybe perhaps you have parents who are actually professors in higher institutions. Sometimes when you see children of people like that, you will actually like smell it, or just, there's this aura around them, like, okay, they have enlightened parents. So transferring that, or even enlightened mothers, transferring that to maybe perhaps people who are not really educated, they might not necessarily have, they might not really make informed decisions, and even they might not really have a voice. And a voice is also very important. As a woman, most times in the society, having a voice is very key. Someone who is not educated most times will actually be docile. Does it will be very docile and may not really be able to stand up for herself, because most times she just like, dance to the tunes of the society, like, okay, this is the way things are. But because of education, because of exposure, because of enlightenment, I've been able to see that you don't just accept everything hook, line, and sinker. Education has given me a voice, it has empowered me in the society. So even if I have a child, and the child is actually having certain mindset about some things, I would definitely have to call the child. No, you have a voice as a girl. You don't just do this. So that would actually help me in terms of how I actually parent my own girl child, or my children generally. So it actually goes a long way. Because most times, like we know, most times in our society, women tend to have influence over their children. They have like access, more access to them. So it will go a long way if a lot of young girls and women are educated in our society. Thank you.
I think this is a little bit clear to people now, because we keep hearing that, oh, when you educate a boy, you educate one person, you educate a woman, a girl, you educate a nation, a whole of that. Now, let's take, like I said earlier, going step by step. Now, we know why we are advocating for the girl child education, because from your introduction, you already mentioned that. But what are the factors that are hindering the girl child education? Let's say
Okay,
basically in
yeah,
Africa and Nigeria.
Yes. There are a lot of factors hindering girl child education in Africa and also in Nigeria. So the first thing I would say is actually poverty. Poverty is actually very, very strong. Like, I would use my dad's village as an example, because it's like it's like a lived experience. It's close to home, so to say. So that would be
Okay.
very, very like, that would be a great example for me to use. Poverty is actually very strong over there. So most times they would rather like, okay, send like a male child to school rather than a female child, because at the end of the day they would just feel like, okay. And again, there was still this patriarchy, or maybe this kind of they still value a male child over a female child. So they will just feel like, okay, why not, even the little money we have, why not just spend it on a male child rather than a female child that will eventually go to someone's house someday, so to say, and just a place belongs to him. So that's the belief too. So poverty is a thing. They would rather prefer to like invest in the life of a boy rather than in the life of a girl. So that's something. Poverty is really strong over there. It's really a very big thing over there. Then even in some cases, government also provides some incentives whereby free education, free books, and things like that. However, patriarchy is still very strong, like I said. There's still this very, very strong mindset in my dad's village, just like I said, because I would like to use that as an example about a young girl. In fact, it's very rare. Like, ever since I've been going there since I was a kid, I think I've only seen one lady who has actually come out from that town. It's I wouldn't call it a village, because it has like basic amenities, but it's really very small, and the mindset is like the mindset of a village. I've only seen maybe perhaps one girl who has actually come out of that place, who is actually like a medical doctor. Most times you get to see a lot of their boys or a lot of men actually thriving in the area of education. But when it comes to girls, you don't really get to see them thrive. In a family of four, whereby you may have like two boys, two girls, you always see a net difference between the lives of the boys and the girls. You see two boys actually really very educated in the family, and you see the other two girls not so educated, and it's really like very strong. The support system is not there. Even if the boys are not doing well, I've actually observed that they will do everything possible to, like, to support the boy, maybe take extra lessons, do this. But for the girl, once she's not really doing well, the next thing is, okay, go and learn a trade. So the part the thing is that there, it's a system, it's still very strong there, and poverty too is a thing. Then also coming to northern Nigeria, we all know that there is this idea of girl child marriage. So more like, okay, as soon as a girl sees a period and they feel like, okay, she's actually like, okay, matured enough according to their own estimation, okay, the next thing they think for her is about, okay, you getting married. And it's actually, I think, ingrained in their own culture. So girl child marriage too also affect young girls when it comes to girl child education. Another thing that can also point out to, I think I already mentioned that in the first question about, household responsibilities and all those things too can also be a factor whereby girls are actually like, pressured when it comes to a lot of things with all those things. Another factor would be toilet facilities. So as we know, this is actually a thing. Young girls actually like get on their periods, they menstruate, and some of the schools around they do not really have proper sanitary facilities to actually cater to these young girls in school. And as a young girl during this period, she needs a lot of facilities. She needs all those things for her comfort. But then when she goes to school, some schools do not even have toilets. They do not really have all these things to really like cater to her needs. So at the end of the day, you see that some young girls during this period they do not go to school. And at the end of the day, imagine me missing school like maybe in a week, maybe like once every month in a term or something like that. It actually draws her, behind, our other colleagues. So these are things that we see. Then also in Nigeria, we've actually had cases of um, this issue of an insurgency, especially in northern Nigeria, whereby young girls are actually like compelled to leave schools because of insecurity. They are scared of going to school because it's like perhaps most of these things that happen, they tend to target schools whereby there are girls, schools whereby even like they target girls primarily. So some parents would just like rather prefer like, okay, let my young girls let them just stay back home. So all these things are very, very like they're really very strong in terms of what hinders young girls in terms of to school and things like that. And also during wars too, people tend to like it's a lot of things affect girls actually the more during the period of wars too. That also affects the education of young girls in our society. Then the last thing I would like to say is that in some schools too, again, another thing that also has this another effect of this is that when a lot of young girls are not educated, at the end of the day, we get to have more male teachers in some of those villages, in some of those cities who are teachers. And sometimes when young girls are in school and they can't really see a lot of female teachers like them that they can actually like, relate to, there's always this sense of comfort when you have someone of the same sex doing something like that you can actually look up to. But when they don't really have those people as role models, that also like, affects them in a way, and they might just feel like what is the essence of going to school and all this. So the sum up of how these things affect the hinders the education of young girls in our society. Thank you.
Man, there are so many things. Now, we've mentioned things that are hindering that. Rose, what are the solutions? What do we have to do so that
Okay, yeah,
these things you
yeah.
mentioned can actually, we can find a way to make them work better? What do you provide as
Okay.
solutions?
Okay, so basically, talking about, of course, this life, it's good where you look at problems. Solutions are also very important. You need to also think
Yes.
about solutions. So talking about poverty issue, well, I know that there are a lot of organizations, there are a lot of NGOs, there are a lot of individuals that are actually making efforts to see to the education of young girls in our society today. So some of them actually provide, sponsorship for young girls. Some of them actually like incentivize, like in terms of making everything like, giving a sort of discount for the education of young girls. So these are efforts. In fact, going online, once you type girl child education, you see a lot of organizations these days actually, like, especially even in Africa, contributing to, like, getting a girl child in school. Some even would actually have like a donation link whereby you can even support a young girl in school. So these are various efforts in terms of, solving this when it comes to the area of poverty. Now, when it comes to the area of, the patriarchy, the mindset, the mentality, that then comes to the aspect of sensitization and awareness. So in my dad's village, I remember when I used to go there, they would always have like a kind of, shall I say, placards on the streets talking about girl child education, and they would actually show a picture of a young girl going to school, showing books, just to, like, make people see that this is actually a valuable thing if you send a girl to school. And again, I would actually say that efforts have been made over the years, and at least things have improved. However, we are not still there yet, whereby, some actually had that mentality that, okay, girl child education is useless. But then by the time they see a lot of, like, through sensitization, through awareness, through people talking to people, then they will see the value in sending their girls to school. So that is also another thing. Sensitization and awareness are very, we might just, sometimes when I actually think about a lot of things, and, a lot of problems in our world today, and, the very, like, the solution that always comes to my mind most times is sensitization, it's awareness. And sometimes I feel like, hope this is not really overflowed or something like that. But sometimes when I sit down and I say, no, it's not really overflowed, awareness and sensitization are very, very strong in our society. Even in my church self, there have been some problems in the society whereby people come to my church to talk about them. And I realize that once they come, a lot of people actually hold on to what they say, because a lot of people even respect, like, religious institutions and all of that. So awareness and sensitization are very, very strong in our society. And again, religious institutions are also very, like, influential. A lot of people actually respect their pastors, their imams, etc. So if those religious leaders too, they can also make efforts and also, like, talking to people. A lot of people respect their words. They respect what they say. That's another thing. Then in terms of the sanitary issue for young girls too, efforts too should be made in terms of ensuring that every school has a toilet facility for young girls to cater to their needs. That's also very important, so that they don't have to, like, stay back at home in order to, like, say, okay, because of this, I won't be going to school. And again, like I said, there are a lot of NGOs who are actually, like, the core area of their work is actually associated with menstrual hygiene. So they actually provide, means of, reusable pads for secondary school young girls and also things like that. So they are also helping out in terms of these things and encouraging, like, means through which young girls can actually cope when they are, when they're menstruating, in order to, like, keep them in school. Then in terms of insurgency too, that's also a very strong thing. Awareness too should be created. Government too should ensure that security is also assured in, various educational institutions. Then I know another thing a lot of people do too, in terms of IDP camps too, whereby some of them, maybe perhaps because of insecurity, they are actually, like, they had to, like, leave their homes. Some also provide some mini schools for them in the IDP camps, so that at least they get things running in terms of, education. Even in refugee camps too, these are things that we see whereby, okay, your education must definitely continue. Another thing is radio too has actually been a very strong source of solution in terms of this. Some people also try to create, like, some programs using radios whereby young girls can listen to, and they can actually learn from this, medium. And it has actually been very helpful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, we really hope all these things you mentioned are probably, because most time when these solutions are profiled, like when we mention them, the authorities that are supposed to take them into consideration and act upon them do not actually do that. But we really hope. So Rose, we'll go for a short break, and then when we're coming back, we're going to talk about you as a gender advocate. All right.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about you as a gender advocate. We've actually talking about the education and the girls. So let's see how far you've gone with what you've been doing and what are the challenges, what are the next projects you have online. We'll be talking about that. Okay, this is Afro Web TV and the talk show today is on the girl child advocacy. And then we've been with Rosalind Adewuyi. She's been with us. We'll go on a short break and then we'll be back soon. Okay, welcome back on the show. I'm Horeb Anthony, and then we're talking about the girl child advocacy, advocating for the girl child education here on AfroWeb TV. And with us, we've been with Rosalind Adewuyi, who is a gender advocate. Gender advocate. She's been with us right from the beginning of the show. And like I said before we went on break, Rosalind, let's talk a little bit about you and this journey that you've been so far. Tell us what actually motivated you to start advocating for the girl child education.
Okay, so from the very first should I say question, I mentioned my dad's village as an example, and
Village.
that actually has been a strong lusty motivation for me, whereby I see that a lot of young girls are not educated, and when I go there, like the truth of the matter is, when I go to my village right now, those girls were they used to be my friends and things like that. However, right now, if I go there, we may not really connect or really vibe well as it is. It's not out of maybe trying to form a sort of, should I say, classism or elitism. No, that is out of it. But then we are at actually different stage in life whereby our level of exposure, our level of enlightenment is totally different now. So we don't really have a lot of common grounds, a lot of things to say together, and this actually saddens me, and it actually makes me like feel like it's like it's like a pain in my heart, like why we say because you're a girl, like most of them now they have 3 kids, they have this, and their life is just like that, and it becomes like it's just really very crazy. So that is actually a very strong thing for me. Then another strong thing for me that I think I may have to also talk about during the course of this discussion is, yes, we've actually talked about getting young girls in school, the idea of girl child education. Another thing I would also like to talk about is the idea that even girls that are in school, how patriarchy still runs in educational institutions. One thing I've actually observed is that sometimes girls are in school, but some of them, even in the schools they are still very, very limited in how they think. Somehow in schools, you still see this kind of mindset, you still see this kind of mentality whereby they are still being discouraged from actually like going for what they truly deserve. They are still actually encouraged from studying STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. They are still really discouraged from going for leadership positions in schools. You see, even like when I was in higher institution, you see young girls who they actually face a lot of oppositions when they're going for various like political leadership roles in their higher institutions, and a lot of people stand against them. And sometimes that makes me actually reflect that this is an higher institution of learning. this is an educational institution whereby we should have a level of enlightenment, whereby people should really be much more exposed and enlightened. But then these educational institutions, which are actually all marks of enlightenment, they still fuel some gender stereotypes. And for me, that's really very crazy. You go to some schools, they are still preparing, there's still this idea whereby young girls are still being, groomed for marriage. This is not saying that marriage is not bad. Of course, marriage is good. Everybody, at least for me, I want success in every area of my life, marriage inclusive. But then it's more like the focus, the gaze is always on girls, whereby it's like, okay, your life is actually like, everything points out towards marriage. And you see these things really. I remember a story of a young girl. She actually told me that when she was in secondary school, I think she did something really very remarkable. And the principal of her school mentioned something like, pointed out to it that at the end of the day, she would end up in the kitchen. Imagine the leadership of the management of a school pointing these things out. She ought to be like, a kind of poster for enlightenment in that school. Someone who should actually guide the young girls to make them think differently. But imagine the kind of utterance she's actually like, saying. So at the end of the day, beyond even getting girls into school, I'm also very big on ensuring that young girls that are in school do not really get to be, really be affected by the issue of patriarchy. They are enlightened. They actually get to do a lot of things, and these are issues that we see. I would also add this to it. I remember when I was in secondary school, I remember a teacher saying something around the fact that, okay, maybe in terms of leadership, boys should actually be really like, be the leads, then girls maybe like assistants or things like that. And when I see these things, it also makes me think that, okay, yes, this is a school for crying out loud. We shouldn't really be perpetuating, all this mindset. But sometimes too, I do not really blame these people, these teachers, educators, because some of these educators too, they're actually affected by, culture and things like that. So it's also good for maybe, organizations also to ensure that as much as you're also talking to young girls, educators in schools are also talked to. Maybe kind of training whereby there's like a module whereby you teach teachers on, the importance of, not uttering certain statements, not doing certain things, so that you have a kind of gender inclusive educational institution. Thank you very much.
Let's look at earlier you were talking about probably seeing in schools where boys or probably girls are asked to be assistant to boys. Now, what are the worst comments you've ever received on your bid on your Facebook, Instagram page? I know people will actually see you as a feminist. Tell us a little bit about those challenges. What are the worst comments you've ever received?
Well, when it comes to cyberbullying for you as a woman, especially when you're now a feminist, is actually a very big thing. So, a lot of people will just have different, perceptions about you, about your personality. So for me, being a feminist or doing what I'm doing, a lot of people will actually judge me. A lot of people associate what I do with maybe like toxicity. Toxicity and things like that. However, for me, that is not really my why. That's not my higher purpose. Mine is just to see young girls in schools and ensure that they are very, very empowered and enlightened in our society. So for me, most times the kind of comments I get most times revolve around the fact that maybe perhaps, a lot of people just link everything back to marriage. Like, oh, who would marry someone like you? You hate men, you are this, you're that, things like that. Some will even come like they will hurl insults at me, like, abuse, like, or dare, in Yoruba and things like that when we actually have some, exchange on social media. And shall I say, as a principle, one thing that have actually guided me is that no matter how heated the argument is, I will never abuse you. I will never insult you online. That has been a principle for me. And again, but then when I actually engage with people online, it has actually happened like, over and over again, whereby, they will all insult at me, say a lot of things. For me, it's just like a civil conversation, but maybe because the person feels, I really don't know, for some reason, some people can just, have an exchange online or even like argue intellectually with someone without like, insulting people. So those are the things I get: insults, abuses, a lot of projections about my personality. Some even might see me as, as this wicked person, this mean person. Then maybe in some Christian circles, they might see me as a sinner because I'm a feminist, and all this, different projections about my kind of person. So those are things. Yeah, cyberbullying is a thing. Oh, but perhaps nobody will marry me. You will never get married. Some even will project to the extent that, okay, even if you get married, you never have a successful home. Have heard different things and a lot of things,
So
and also because.
what
Mhm.
do you tell those
Okay.
people? Like, what do you tell them?
Yeah, definitely. I try to just like I'm always very calm online, most times.
I'm asking right now, you using this platform to talk to them, like, is it
Okay.
what they think
Oh,
you are that you are?
Oh, okay. Definitely not. I know that because of a lot of things, a lot of people have actually like, there are a number of people who have actually like, should I say, bastardized what feminism really stands for. But then I actually know that anybody who has really like keenly followed me over the years would definitely know that I do not stand for toxicity. I'm actually against it because of what essence is being toxic, or maybe trying to push for men hatred in the society. It's really pointless for me, really. Yeah, because even women also, some of them actually perpetuate patriarchy. So will I say because of that I will hate all humanity? That's really pointless. Yeah.
So, Rose, we also see that this is not all about girls alone. You know, sometimes if
Like,
you go to Nigeria or some other part of Africa, you even see boys on the street not going to school. So, in the course of
yeah,
your
sure.
advocacy, do you sometimes talk about boys too?
Okay, so in the course of my advocacy, basically for me, my focus is on young girls. However, I have a blog. I have a blog here. So in my blog, I have like a series on my blog called Men Picking Up the Gauntlet. That's the name of the series. So this series is actually dedicated to young men who are actually at the forefront of boy child advocacy and men advocacy. So I interview them so that will inspire more young boys or men to actually like mentor young boys in the society, or actually have like a platform for young boys. For me, I'm actually after a sustainable society, a sustainable world, a world whereby everybody will, we actually thrive and all that. So for me, I'm actually very big on ensuring that young boys too are actually empowered too in our society. However, because I'm a woman, most times I tend to really like relate to the realities of a girl being a woman myself. I may not be able to relate to boys. If I talk to a boy about certain things, it might not really come from a place of being practical. It might just be a lot of things just being made up of theories here and there, and might not really be very, very practical. So the essence of doing that is to, make more young people see this, that okay, there are some men too who are actually doing these things for boys, and you too can actually start something in the corners of your room. And so far so good. I've interviewed 8 men.
That's beautiful. Now let's talk about your this surely going to be the last one. What are your next
Okay.
projects? Or what about the things you've done? Or are the ones you are looking up to?
Okay, talking about my next project, it's very capital intensive. So it's still going to be something that I'm still going to like maybe perhaps might not really be very imminent, maybe might not really be soon, but then it's something I'm still trying to figure out by and by. I actually plan to have like a physical hub for young girls, like a physical space whereby young girls can get together and learn various skills beyond like, going to schools to talk to them about, unlearning gender stereotypes, whereby they can actually be empowered with a skill. It could be a digital skill that's also on the rise, or maybe like a skill that that they are really interested in, whereby there will be trainers to actually make them go through all these things. That's really on my mind. Then another thing I'm also thinking about is a mentorship platform for young girls, whereby young girls are paired with influential women in the society that will actually like guide them, mentor them through what they've been through. They will actually like be a sort of support system, guide them through things, and also like encourage them and empower them. That's also another project I'd like to do. Then another thing I'm also thinking about that would be for what's it called next year is also like empower a girl, whereby we actually like select like maybe a young girl or a young lady every month who is doing something. We support her with money. maybe to like support her business, support her brand or something like that. So that's also another thing I'm working on. But talking about projects I've done in time past, I've actually worked on several projects. Every International Day of the Girl Child, I organize events for young girls in schools on different themes. We organize competitions for them. I'm big on education. I'm big on things like this. I'm big on academic. We do things like that. And also, there's an ongoing project called Engenders. The Engenders means ending gender stereotypes in schools. So this is also like another big project of ours, whereby we're trying to talk to parents, teachers, and also like young girls in schools on how to like unlearn stereotypes in schools and how they can actually like go about that. But then in terms of challenges as regards these things, beyond the cyberbullying online also, financial constraint has actually been a very, it's been like one of the challenges in this journey too, in this advocacy journey. We need money to do a lot of things, and I'm only a student, so sometimes it can be very like very demand very very like and constraining to really like do a lot of things because of finances and all those things. And even sometimes when you go online, you crowdfund, it's not always easy. Some people will definitely not, people may not really be responsive. So you just have to find ways of, going around things. So sometimes I try to ensure that some of the projects I embark on, they are not so capital intensive because of, you know, finances and things like that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Rose, thank you so much. Because of your busy schedule, like I said earlier, this is going to be the end of the show today. I want to say thank you so much for making it, here. Last week we were supposed to be together, but for some reasons it didn't. And we hope that in the next or in the nearest future we're still going to reach out to you, when we have discussions that really partake to, child girl or the girl child education or anything that has to do with girls in general or women also. So thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Okay, so guys, we are now at the end of the show. Thank you all for following us, and thank you, Monsieur Roger Achou, for the production right at Iowa. Okay, that's where the studio of AfroWeb TV is. Please, for more information, you can just reach out to us on YouTube AfroWeb TV, Facebook AfroWeb TV. You can call us on the number you have on the screen right now, plus 319 462 8979, or go to www.afrowebtv.com for more information. I remain Horeb Anthony, and next week we will meet with you again on another topic. Bye.